live now. Let me just make sure it's streaming. Okay, so we are currently live right now. So I will break this down and get right to the camera. I actually want to put it here. Okay, so actually let me change it and then I have to remember to put it to, sorry if you're watching this and trying to figure out what I'm trying to do. But welcome everyone to VEE. Thank you for taking the time to tune in tonight. If you're not tuning in tonight, then you are watching a recording of this. So how cool is it that we are able to do this? This is my second time doing a live podcast. I promised you last week that I was going to keep this more consistent, and here I am with a very important topic. I have not updated it with a fancy new microphone or cool background like I said I was going to work on. However, here we are. So it's been a very sad, hurtful, angry past week or so, and all we can see on social media is a lot of friends and family going back and forth on disagreements, but like I stated in my post, we cannot deny that racism exists. I know there's people sometimes that assume that was something of the past. We're paying too much mind to the hate that's going on, don't let the devil win. And trust me, I'm a, believer, Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, yes, but we cannot be blind to what is happening. And not wanting to speak on it is hurting all of us from growing, period. So this is why I wanted to make this podcast. I think is really important, especially for, like I said, my white friends from all over who again are amazing, great people, but can't really grasp what's going on in some ways because they've never had to experience it, or probably never even heard firsthand experiences that their friends have gone through. And I currently I was born and raised in Brooklyn, East New York, so 98% of everyone around me was either Hispanic or Black. And I can't really say I felt like I dealt with a lot of racism growing up because they were, they looked like me. And what I did experience is we didn't grow up feeling that cops were exactly our safe haven. And I know it's weird because you assume that that's what we have to teach our kids, that cops are the ones you call if something goes wrong, etc. But I remember every experience, majority of the time growing up, I always saw them, mistreating those around us. It's just the way it was. It literally can be if we were outside hanging, a group of us for too long, too late, it was an issue. And that was, again, why I say something that we need to get better at in the police district. There has to be definitely a reform. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it has to happen because you have to learn how to monitor your neighborhood. You have to, now where I live here in Florida, I see the same cops and they're always really nice. They've gotten to know my kids. And I think that's what we need to do everywhere, because if you are a white officer, and you're designated in East New York, but you don't know how to speak to us, and you think that, every little movement is, oh my God, he's reaching for something. I think it's important to get to know your neighborhood if you're going to be, part of protecting it. But before I get into that, I wanted to speak more on the person that I wanted to have as a guest, which is my friend Christina. I've known her now for, I don't even know how long it's been, maybe 8 years, 7, 8 years. And I've always been a huge fan of hers. And you'll see why. She has such a great, spunky attitude. But I just admire her for her strength. Since day one, I met her being that mom of two, single mom of two. And to see how amazing her kids are growing is just beautiful to see. But I know right now she's hurt just like a lot of us are, and what we have to see on social media constantly, but more importantly, her sometimes by not understanding, not having our white friends really understand the hurt and just are quick to say, just just be positive, because if you understood where the hurt came from, I think more people would be a little bit more compassionate. But Christina, can we get you on the line so everybody can meet Christina?
Hi.
Hey. What's up, boo?
Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you for asking.
Cute. I like the t-shirt. Shout out to Did You Pray? So,
yes, ma'am.
Like I said, I'm a woman of God, Jesus Christ, my Savior. But this girl here is, I lean on her when I need prayer. So thank you, Christina, for being that friend of mine. Thank you. Anytime I ask you to, come and help me out in anything and speak and pray, you're always available. But I really just want to have a convo between two friends in here. Everyone can tune in and just kind of listen to our experiences, some similarities, some things that differ, just so we can shed some light on how we can help, not just white parents, but Black and Hispanic parents. So what we can do culturally to, raise our kids to be anti-racism, because it works both ends, obviously. But right now what we're dealing with, it's like, what happens? How do we move forward? And how have you dealt with raising specifically a Black son who just graduated from a private school in New York?
Yes.
And how that experience has been from you, from the beginning.
Well, first, Valerie, I want to thank you for having me. I'm truly honored to be here, despite the circumstances. For those who don't know, my name is Christina. I am a mom of two. My daughter is 19. My son is 17. And this is tragic. It's tragic. I've raised my kids on my own, practically all my life. They've had father figures in and out, but I have been the one that's been consistently been there. And so I will say this, my children have grown up in a predominantly Black neighborhood all their lives. So they have not actually experienced racism, but they knew it from a young age, right? And that's because it's literally in our faces. My daughter said in elementary school, she would look at certain things that white children would have, and she would wonder, well, why? Because of what they have, they're treated differently, right? She can actually see it happening in the school at elementary age. Wow. And it hurts, because this is where you're trying to raise your children to understand that we are all the same, but we're not treated all the same. We're absolutely not. Me having a young son, I was telling Valerie today, we were driving on the highway and the cops were passing us, and I had to tell him, I'm like, and it hurts to have to even say this, but it's like, slow down and turn your music down. Like, you just can't enjoy the drive as a regular person, because little things such as your music being too loud, or you going just a little bit too fast, you're a target.
Yeah.
You're already a target as a young Black man, and then everything else just makes it even worse. And you know, to the white friends who are watching this, first of all, the fact that we even have to have this discussion, it chokes me up, honestly. Like, honestly, you have no idea. Like, me as a mom, I have to tell my son the certain things that he has to do. Like I said, turning down your music. Even I've told him not to drive with a hoodie on, Valerie. Don't drive with a hoodie on. Something as simple as that. Most times he just wants to wear his hoodie because his hair's not done and he just wants to wear his hoodie. And I'm like, don't drive with a hoodie on because you're a target. It's not fair. Like, and I understand, you know, most of our white friends, they don't understand what we have to entail. And it hurts that you cannot just live in a world where we can just be treated equally.
And I think, honestly, one of the problems is that we have come to normalize this, as far as like, it's normal to tell your kids from young, be careful if you get stopped over, make sure you're polite, make sure your hands on your steering wheel, don't be disrespectful. Like, these are not things that my white friends have told me they ever have had to, you know, tell their kids. Mm-hmm. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, it's just what we do. We have to do that. Why do we have to do that? You know? And like I was telling you earlier, I know many people of all colors. We try to raise our kids, you know, like everything's good, everyone's equal, love everyone who's good, and et cetera, et cetera. But you can't tell or teach kids not to see color and that everyone's equal if that's not a fact, right? Correct. So it's like me, you know, telling, and this is a great example. It's me raising all boys. Let's say I have all boys, me raising my boys, telling them, listen, women are equal. We are, you know, in every way impossible. But when it comes to a lot of things, it doesn't, till this day, women get paid less than a man does for the same job. It's a fact. So I do have to inform my daughter that unfortunately in the workforce, you do have to work harder to, one, get the position, and two, to get the same equal pay. That's very rare. So it's the same concept. It's like, how can we tell our children, those who are raising white kids, okay, everyone's equal, love everyone, but then when they go to the outside world, they don't see that. So it confuses them. Now they assume, so are we equal? Are we not? So I think, again, it starts from home. So what are some things that, you know, I guess some tips that you can give to mothers who predominantly maybe only live in a white neighborhood, and don't really have access to maybe a lot of people of color in their circle of friends or in their neighborhood? Like, what do you tell that mom who obviously, you know, doesn't want to, you know, teach them anything that racism exists, but it does. So what do you say to this mom now?
I definitely say to this mom, the fact that you don't want to teach them is a problem. They need to know the truth. Even if you're living in a predominantly white neighborhood and you are of the white race, you still need to make sure that you're educating your white children that racism is still alive today. And although they may not experience it, they have to be aware of it, right? Because they can become friends with someone else of the white race that may be a racist, because they might have been raised that way, because racists raise racists. That's just what it is. It's plain as day. And they may become friends with this person. And now, because you never educated them, they think that what their white friend is doing is okay.
Right.
So you have to make sure that they are made aware of it, even if they never experienced it. Like I said, my children have never experienced racism, but they are aware of it. In the event that it comes, they have to confront it. They have to be educated. So we need to be educating our children. Our white friends that are watching, please educate your children that racism is very, very real. But at the same time, you have to make sure that they know, treat people fairly. Treat people fairly. It's not based on race, but racism is real. One of the things that I've had to do with my children is make sure explaining them both aspects. And as you said, Valerie, it can get very confusing for children, right? Because first of all, children, they're like flowers, and they're just always blossoming, and they're imaginative, and they're happy. And so children don't see color. Children learn behaviors and things of what we teach them. And so if we explain it to them, even from a young age, and I know that's one of the things that you're going to touch on also, but I guess we can go to it now, like as far as the age of when you start teaching it. Like I said, my daughter knew in elementary school that racism was real without experiencing it. So yes, from the moment they hit elementary school, make sure that they become aware of racism and what it is. But also the reason why you want to make them aware of it is so that they're educated enough so that we can start to make the change and the shift, because it starts from young. You can't wait until they get older and something happens to go, okay, well, this is what it is. They grew up all this time not knowing, with no awareness. And now you're trying to change them in their teenagers or their adult years. It's difficult. Yeah. So they have to be known from young, to be made aware of the racism problem that we have out here and educated on how to fix it.
And how to speak out against it. You know, I think that's the most important thing to teach from young. You know, for me, I'll even say preschool, because if your kids are already in school before elementary and they're going to public school, like, you know, I think it's important maybe at that age, not specifically to speak about racism, let's say they're 3 or 4, but you need, again, if you don't live around people of color of any kind, then read books to them, you know,
Yep.
African Americans and Hispanics in a great light. You know, we have so many figures, there's books about them, get certain toys of different colors, Barbies. You know, I remember one time a friend of mine said, well, you know, my daughter really likes the white Barbie because she relates to the white Barbie, you know, but we had white Barbies too, and we didn't relate to them. You know what I mean? It's just what we saw. If you become accustomed to them seeing a Spanish Barbie, a black Barbie, you know, of different colors, when they see someone of color in person, it's not weird to them. Most kids, and this is what I know, most kids who ask, you know, or are even scared, because I've seen that before. Kids get scared when they see someone of color. It's like, oh my, it's because they've never seen them before. Okay. So where does that go? Again, it starts at home. What have you been showing them that when they see a black person, they're like, oh my God, I'm scared. They've never seen anyone like that before. So that just goes to show, where's your circle of friends? And again, what can you do? Expand your circle of friends. If they're not in your neighborhood, then start getting books, you know, get some books, get some toys. I love that now, obviously in my time, I'm able to get my daughter, you know, black Barbies and Spanish Barbies, and everywhere I travel to, I get them like a different doll of different colors. So, you know, I'll share an experience, I guess, from my end, because now, even though I was raised in a predominantly Black and Hispanic neighborhood, I'm now raising my kids in a predominantly white neighborhood. And I never thought I had to be like frightened about that. Never. My son is only 7. I never thought I would have to tell him, be careful as you start getting older, to not do this and do that, and be very respectful with the cop, because even if you are, things might happen. It's crazy to me. And thank God, like I said, you know, I can't speak on our neighborhood. Everyone's always been very, you know, cool about it. I don't feel any certain type of way with anyone. But again, I feel like it starts at home. So my daughter, Caitlin, she's 12 now. But when we first moved to Florida, we lived in a different part of town, not too far from here. And if you guys don't know Caitlin, she has like really big, tight, curly hair, much, much tighter than mine. And she's a little bit more dark skinned than I am. And we're walking home from school. I picked her up first grade, and she goes, you know, always ask her, hey, you know, how was school today, et cetera, et cetera. And she goes, Mommy, school was good, but remember, you know, I forgot the teacher's name. It wasn't her teacher. It was a lady that was next door to her. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, she told me today that I'm going to hate my hair when I'm 10. I'm like, excuse me? She goes, yeah, she told me that I'm gonna hate my hair when I'm 10. I got so mad because understand this. From the time Caitlin couldn't understand, I've always told her she has beautiful hair. You have beautiful hair. I love your hair. I love her hair. I envy her hair. I wish my curls was as tight as her hair. But I also enforced it because I knew there would be a time that we would be around more people who have straight hair. So I didn't want her to feel left out. If anything, I wanted her to feel special and be like, wow, like my hair's cool. And that's how I raised her. The whole time up to that point, she always loved her hair. She was like always very proud of it, always wanted to wear it loose. And then she comes home and while we're walking and she's confused. She's like, why would she tell me that she hopes I don't hit my hair? So you know me, I could not wait till I got home. I went right back, walked, asked the teacher. She had left already. And so I sent an email. And then of course her teacher tells her, no, I was there. She didn't say it in that way. So I was like, no, I want to speak to her directly. So I go and speak with the teacher. She was a white teacher and she had like a really short pixie cut hair. And, you know, I expressed her and she goes, I always tell her that I love her hair. She goes, I actually, you know, told her, I said, I just told her, I hope she doesn't hate it when she's 10 because I have nieces who, you know, had curly hair and then all of a sudden they hated their hair when they were like around teenage age. And I go, understand that as a teacher, you have to be very mindful of what you state because now you planted a seed in her to ask, why would I hate my hair? That thought was never there. It was never there. So especially as a teacher, you need to be mindful because my daughter has always loved her hair and now she's questioning me, why would I ever even think about that? So now I have to educate her on that part, right? And she apologized, of course, made it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that way. I'm just like, all right. And again, for the rest of the year, she was extra nice. Oh my God, hi, Mr. Constant. I didn't want to hear it because now, again, she put in that seed. So I had to condition, again, reinforce, Katie, I love your hair. And thank God, because of that, from birth till all the way up, she till this day loves her hair. She loves to wear her hair out. She knows it's different. You know, she hates that people ask if they could touch her hair. That's another thing. She's like, they always say, can I touch my hair? You know, but it's just the nature. And honestly, where I live, people assume she's mixed as far as like they think she's black and white because of her hair and, you know, her skin tone and things like that, where she has to do like the survey, like, oh, are you white, black, you know, Asian, whatever that is. She said one time she asked a teacher and she was like, well, you write black, right? And she goes, but I'm Spanish. And she was like, oh, you are? Like, it is just things that we had. And I just laugh about it because I'm like, Katie, it's, you know, out here, Spanish people look different. In New York, Spanish people pretty much look like look out here, they look more like Venezuelan style. So it's just a learning, for me at least, now experiencing and raising my kids in a predominantly white neighborhood. But I've always told my kids from young, there are people of all colors and everyone is to be treated equally. No, you're not better than anyone, but no one's better than you. And I think that's important to say. You can't go out there saying, don't look at color. No, color exists. We exist because then you're gonna get the awkward question, oh, why is he darker? Why am I like this? Yeah, sure. We all are different shades, all in different shades. And you know, like you said before, kids are just, they're not born racist. You learn that. You know, you learn that from what is being said, and you have to be conscious of that too, parents, because sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. You know, if you're driving all of a sudden and you see a person of a color and you lock your door, what are you telling your kids?
Exactly.
What are you telling your kids? You know, so again, parents, be mindful of what it is that you're, you know, teaching your kids. And more importantly, Christina, I want you to share, like, what have you said and done to empower your kids, you know, because that's, you know, the parents who are listening, who are Black, Hispanic, Asian, you know, of other descent, you know, what we can also do to make sure that our kids are proud of their culture and who they are, you know, and you're a great example of that because your kids are amazing.
Thank you. I actually got really emotional hearing your story about Caitlin. So I'm going to share something that I've never shared before. One of the reasons why I raise my kids the way I do is because of how I was raised. I've always been dark skinned, and I was teased for being dark skinned. My hair was nappy, so I didn't always fit in with the crowd. I didn't always have friends. And no one ever spoke to me about racism when I was a kid. I didn't understand it. I didn't know it even existed, right? So I didn't know that's what was happening at the time. But, people would make fun of me, or the kids would make fun of me because my hair was coarser than theirs, or, it wasn't as soft and silky. It wasn't as poised, or however you want to word it, right? And because my skin was darker. And I actually, for a very long time, hated being dark skinned because I felt like it was a curse. And it took me, for those who don't know, I lost my mom at a young age. So I didn't have her there to build me up and to help me into my womanhood. I learned a lot of this on my own. And so it took a while for me to accept my color as beautiful, accept my melanin as beautiful. It took me a very long time to do that. Only in the past maybe 2 to 3 years did I start even wearing red lipstick, because when I put on red lipstick, I said, oh, this doesn't go with my color. It's ugly, right? And so again, you're right. It starts.
And I'm over here talking about, you look cute with that red lipstick on.
Now I can put it on and I feel absolutely confident in it. But I didn't grow up like that, because if I saw red lipstick, it was on a white person or a lighter skinned person. It wasn't on a dark skinned person. It wasn't on us, right? So it didn't look beautiful to me, and no one ever said it was beautiful. It just felt weird. And so in raising my children, one of the things, and I can give a couple of tips, especially for my daughter, raising a young Black melanin queen, I make sure to, number one, tell her that she's beautiful every single day. Like, we'll wake up in the morning, I'll say, good morning, beautiful. It's embedded in her, right? So any other words that she hear are cast out already, because I'm already letting her know how beautiful she is, right? Making sure to have real conversations with her if she feels uncomfortable about something. As a matter of fact, I just remembered, she was still in high school when this happened. So she has a best friend. He's Spanish. I believe he's Puerto Rican. And one day after school, she calls me and she's freaking out. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, the police are abusing him. I'm like, what are you talking about? They were over by like Jamaica Avenue area, and they were all in a pizza shop. I don't know who made whatever phone call, but the police went for him and he wasn't even doing anything. So when I said that they hadn't experienced racism, it just came back to memory, and she probably forgot about it too. But this actually happened. But because he was of the Black race, they went for him as if he did something wrong. So I say that to say, embedding in our children the importance for, as parents, as a mom, for me, embedding in my children how powerful they are, how phenomenal they are, making sure that they hear that every single day. I'm gonna start your affirmations before you, so that when you say your affirmations, you're repeating what I say, so you can understand. I am huge. You already know. You are my girl. You know me. You know I love me some prayer. I pray the heck over my kids, right? And so for those parents out there that are trying to figure out how to cover your kids, you can't cover your kids when they're outside unless you're praying for them. It is a fact. You can't be with them 24/7 at all. So I'm adamant about praying over my kids. When my son, because, and for the white people who are watching this, ask yourself, when your son leaves the house, is your confidence up or down that they're coming back home? Because for us, it's down. We don't know. We don't know if they're going to be targeted. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, right? And so before my son leaves this house, anytime he leaves this house, I have to make sure to pray with him. He'll be going down the steps, and I'm like, come back here, because I have to make sure that he's covered. So prayer, and more prayer. I will, to the death of me, I will always speak on prayer, right? And making sure you're praying over your kids. So conversations with your kids, affirmations with your kids, building them up, letting them know how beautiful they are, how amazing they are. For my son, I always tell my son I see him where he's going to be. My daughter is the excel person. She overachieves. She does it. My son, not so much, because he always feels like there's a chip on his shoulder. And so I have to remind him all the time, I don't see you as who you are. I see you as who you're going to be.
Yes.
And I think that is so powerful for some parents, because all of our kids are not going to be straight A students. All of our kids, you know, because some of those things will help them, irregardless to race. It may just help them, maybe help them, but some of them are not. So now, not only are they not excelling in school, they're just getting by, right? But then they're Black. Strike. They may have kinky hair. Strike. They may wear their pants baggy. Strike. So all these strikes against them, if you don't start telling your children that you see them not as who they are, but who they're going to be, they will never become nothing. It is so important. And so for our white counterparts, I love what you said, Valerie. Like, I wish to God that when we were younger, we had Black Barbie dolls. I didn't have those. All my Barbie dolls were white. What I did have, though, was Cabbage Patch. I did have Cabbage Patch. And me and Cabbage Patch were best friends.
I love me some Cabbage Patch. Yeah, it's crazy to hear you in that light, you know, and thank you for being transparent, because that's not something, that means I knew you during this time that you actually didn't even want to wear red lipstick. You know what I mean? But like you said, it starts from home, you know. Unfortunately, you said you weren't raised where you were, you know, told to be proud of, you know, your skin color and your hair, and all those things matter. All those things matter. And, you know, to my white friends, I know, you know, again, the reason why I say teaching them from young is because, you know, kids say things and sometimes don't realize it. And I think it is important because I had a friend who lived in this neighborhood. She was Black, and she went to the same school as Caitlin at the time. And I remember she told me that she was upset one day because, you know, her daughter, when she was in class, they were like, your hair looks weird. Why does your hair look like that? She just had braids, and she was like upset about that. And I'm like, what, who are these parents? You know, it's like, teach them, you know. And again, I understand sometimes kids say things, but I feel like if you're teaching them from home, Tyler has a mouth on him. He will just say things, but I've taught him from home. You don't point. That's another thing. I was taught from, you don't point at nobody. You don't, like, that's so disrespectful. Have manners. So it starts at home. You don't point at anybody. You know, if you think something's weird, you keep it to yourself. You don't say it out loud. You never ever want to make someone feel bad. You know, even down to, you know, kids with disability. You know, right now, at least in our school, they intertwine everyone. You know, so I tell them, like, you know, it doesn't make them any less special than you are. Everyone's special in their own way. You never ever treat someone different for any reason. And, you know, it's something that I've instilled in them. And like I said, like, you know, that's the reason why you're strong on raising your daughter that way. You're beautiful. And that's what I've instilled in, you know, my Caitlin. And, you know, it's something that I'm proud to see her develop into, and not see an issue with her hair till this day, and love it. And, you know, there's times that even for like house, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go blow my hair. You want to blow my hair? She's like, no. She's like, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, girl. Okay. You know, so I love that. I love that she's, you know, proud of her hair. And, you know, it just comes with what we're teaching them at home. And I think this is really why I want us to have this conversation, because I feel like this can touch, again, on all aspects, you know, Black parents, Spanish parents, Asian parents, white parents. What are you teaching your kids about other races? You know, another thing that I feel like, which I'm happy, do you realize we were raised in school thinking Christopher Columbus was a good guy?
Yeah.
Like,
That's
this
what they
is what we're taught in school.
That's what they taught us.
Understand this. This is what
Yeah.
we were taught in school. It wasn't until an adult that I really learned who Christopher Columbus was. And thank God my daughter is not taught that he was the savior and this good person. And what happened? It took somebody to step and be like, that's not the case.
That's not the truth. Right.
Take that out. You know, and honestly, even with my culture, being a Spanish person, it's, you know, because I was raised in New York and Brooklyn, I'm in touch a lot with my hip hop, you know, like my hip hop community. That's just I was raised around. But I just watched John Leguizamo, I think it's like Spanish for Idiots. It's like some comedy, but it even taught me more about my Spanish heritage, you know, that I told myself. I made Caitlin watch with me that we need to do better, because my sister-in-law told me, she's like, are you teaching your kids about your Spanish roots too? And I'm like, you're right. I can't just talk to them about J-Lo. I'm always talking about like, yes, that's my girl, J-Lo. It's like, let's talk about our past. So we all need to do this, because right now in America, yes, in school, that's what we were taught growing up. So if you are not, if you're, you know, they're not learning that in school, Black History Month should not just be a month.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And where's the Spanish month? Where's the Latino month that we're teaching in school? We don't even have that. So we have to do, and I'm saying we, as in me as well, do better teaching at home, teaching them, getting books and teaching them about, you know, because we have heroes in our time as well. Everyone does. But that's what I was saying, is important for all of us to continue to do this. And right now, you know, what's going on in the world has everyone mad, and, you know, we're protesting, some people are rioting, et cetera, and you can feel a certain type of way. But the fact is, racism is real and it's happening now, and it needs to change. It needs to change, but it can't just go from a hashtag, you know, to, okay, a box, Black Lives Matter, and you're not even speaking out on it. You're not saying anything. And honestly, for me, this is my time to tell my white friends that it is important for you to say something, even if you don't know what to say. Even if you don't know what to say, but you just putting a black box and not saying anything, it makes your Black and Spanish person think like, do you not really care like what we're going through right now? Saying something, especially if you have the nerve to talk about the looting and the rioting, but you don't mention anything or have any compassion about what just happened. Come on, we have to do better. And you can't be afraid to call your friends out. And again, the reason why we need to educate our kids from young is because they might come across, like you said, Christina, a friend who may have been raised a racist, but you as a white person can check them. And then maybe, listen, I checked a white man, a friend who I thought was a friend of mine, simply for the same reason. He was writing some stuff on just talking about the looting and people acting like animals. It was just, I didn't like what he was saying. And he mentioned nothing of George, nothing of anything. So I commented and I respectfully agreed with the looting. I said, it's not correct and I don't agree with it, but understand where their hurt is coming from. If you're gonna inform your audience, your friends and family about what's happening with the looting, then you should also be informing them about why they're angry and what we need to do as a country to change that. So he didn't like it. We keep going back and forth, and guess what? I got blocked.
Wow.
And I was not like, you know, because he's older than me. And honestly, I had a lot of respect for him. He was an older man. You know, he was in the accounting field. So I always like looked up to him in that way. And to see how he was just like, he didn't like what I said because it was the truth. And I was calling you out instead of you conversing back and forth. Like, okay, maybe you have a point here. It was just like one word, like, well, looting's not going to fix it. Well, looting's not going to fix it. Well, looting's not going to fix it. I'm like, I understand that. But understand why. Have some damn compassion.
Right.
That's it. Show some compassion. Forget about because he was Black. He was human.
That's it. Period. Where is the humanity value? And that's what we're trying to get to. Where's the humanity value? Like, yes, absolutely, this is happening to our Black culture, our Black race. Absolutely. But you have to have a heart for humanity, period. At the very core, you need to have that, right? And like you said, if all you're doing is talking about the looting, you miss the whole point. You are part of the problem, right? Because you want to attack when you feel like, oh, this shouldn't be done, that shouldn't be done. And here's a thing that I practiced when it came to parenting, right? It's, you cannot discipline your child if you're not going to praise them. You've got to do both parts.
Amen.
We cannot be out here just disciplining our children and you're not praising them. You have to do both parts. It has to be an equal platform of that, right? So it's the same thing. You can't sit here and talk about, oh, you can't do this, but you're not talking about the other part. You can't do one and not the other. It goes hand in hand. I agree with you. Yes, the looting, unnecessary, but it stems from a place, right?
400 years.
From a place. This didn't just happen. It did not just happen.
and listen, if I really wanted to get like real technical with it on Facebook, but I don't want to, because I'm like, I don't want to go back and forth. But it's like, how do you think America was discovered? What did you guys do to Native Americans? It was by peacefully protesting that you guys took over? No,
Exactly.
so I would love for you to refer to Christopher Columbus as an animal and everyone that came here and acted like animals, because that's what they did, right?
Right.
Again,
Exactly.
it can't be one-sided. And that's all I try to tell people. And I have a lot of Christian friends, like you and I are Christian, but this is something that, speaking about racism, is sometimes like taboo, like, oh my God, it makes everyone uncomfortable.
Good. Make it, and I feel like it should make them
Needs to be
uncomfortable.
spoken on.
Yes.
And if your church is not talking about it, that's a problem too. Because
Yes.
if your church, forget about it, if it's diverse, whether it's diverse or not, it needs to be spoken about. Because there's Christian racist.
Yep. Absolutely.
To me, that's an oxymoron, right?
Yes, it is. I agree.
When I remember hearing that when when they were bringing the slaves like downstairs, when they had them downstairs on top of each other, that they were like praising on top, talking to God, like. So it's important to speak about it. I understand that Jesus is love, and that's what we should be on a positive note, but you can't just look the other way of what's happening. You have to discuss it. I know it's uncomfortable, and I know sometimes we feel like it's, we're bringing on hate or we're trying to divide, but it's important to just speak on it and just share, what your thoughts are, and the fact that you do feel compassion, because we do need to see that, because again, it's not just a race thing, but someone, it's your you can't call me your friend, you love me, your sister, you're this, and I see you suffering and I'm just like,
right.
It's obvious, I think that's why this call, it was obvious what we saw on TV, what was happening.
Yeah, and you're right, the awareness needs to be brought up, even though it's uncomfortable. We don't want to talk about this. It's like, it hurts.
I
right?
never thought that in 2020 we would be going through this.
Hurts.
But I saw a post earlier that said, we keep canceling 2020 out and keep saying, what's going on, but maybe this is the year to remember. This is going to be the best year, because it's an awakening. For me, Corona, a lot of families, felt united, like what it was to be with their families and having their kids home and that stuff. And of course, there was a lot of negative part with finance and people losing their job, but that was the positive side of it, and now with what's going on right now, it's like, I can't believe this is happening, but what's the blessing of it? And for me, I do feel like a lot of us I'm happy we're having this topic of conversation, and you should have it amongst your friends. And if you don't understand it, listen, Google is a great way to learn, and research backgrounds and watch movies. I posted a movie the other day, I think it was called Just Mercy. I just watched it. So there's a lot of movies, if you don't really understand that's happening, again, how that portrays today. I've heard so many excuses. Oh, but there was a lady like, black on black crime happens the most. Shut up. Like, you can't speak on it if you don't understand the hurt. Do you understand that black people were brought here to be slaves? This is years after years of oppression that they have to carry on. Why? Oh yeah, where does the crime happen? In poor neighborhoods. Yep. Why does that happen? Because we don't have access. Me growing up, the things that I give my kids now, I didn't have access to extra activities and all these things. These are things that we need to do as a community to be able to go and give back and say, have this available.
Agreed.
After school activities for our kids free of charge.
Agreed. Like my daughter, I love her, and I'm going to talk to you about this some more, Valerie, later on, but she literally started what's called the Mason Education Initiative. And what it is, she named it after my mom, and she's literally collecting school supplies and giving them away for free because she understands that our community does not have.
Yes, I love that.
Something as simple as that. She's 19. If she can do it at 19, there's no reason why we can't do stuff like that, right? Like simple things like that. Let's ask everyone to donate something.
Donate. There's so many sites that you can, nonprofit, that help lower income communities. Donate. If you're someone who's more of the back end, okay, I don't like to talk, I don't want to post, I don't want to do anything, then be active in that way.
There's always a way.
There's always some type of way.
Yep.
Donate. I'm big on that. So many people be posting all these things. I don't post. I do. You know what I mean? Like, I do. But this is something that we had to speak on. We had to speak on, and it can't just be a one, week thing. And it's something that, again, we have to continuously speak to our children and make sure that they're teaching and speaking out against racism, because, again, that's what changes the world. You can't look the other side. If you really feel like that was racist, say something. Right then.
Yeah, speak on it. And can we please start teaching diversity in our house? Like at home, start teaching diversity, please. Valerie, like you said, there are some, white friends who they may not have, Black people in their neighborhood. Fine, good and well, but there's Black people in the world somewhere, and at some point in time, your child is going to encounter a Black person. So start teaching diversity in the household. I love what you said about Google. Research is there. Like, do the research, do something to educate our children from young as to what is it, and let us please bring some awareness to what is happening. And the only way we can change it is to become aware of it. You have to first become aware of it before you can change it. If you're not aware, you can't change it. So please, let's bring more awareness and bring more diversity.
Correct.
And pray for your kids.
Yes. Pray, bring diversity, please. Do something, donate, speak out, whatever you can, because we have to do this as a world, forget about it just being a race thing. Like I said, it's something that needs to change. So I appreciate everyone, tuning in to me and Christina. Shout out to Did You Pray? If you want one of her t-shirts, she's also an author, so you can find her on Christina Danielle _ Christina Danielle on Instagram. I have her tagged on my Instagram if you want to go check out her stuff. But thank you again, Christina, for being on this call with me. Thank you all for tuning in, and let's just pray, but not just pray, but also let's put action that things are going to get better. Things are going to get better, but I promise you, it starts at home. What are you teaching your kids, and what are you not teaching your kids? Because that makes a difference too. If you're not saying anything and you're waiting for it, you can't, sugarcoat thing and hope that things, okay, well, they're, when it happens, they'll mention something. Don't wait. It starts from now, from home. And I don't care how old they are, if they're talking 3 and up, you should mention and just start, like I said, instilling books and Barbies, or if it's a boy, other dolls, something to showcase other cultures, to embrace that we all are unique and beautifully and equally made.
Yes.
So thank you guys again for tuning in to Tea with V. Till next time, I will do my best to, again, stay consistent with this and be here again next week. And have a great night. God bless, and stay safe. Bye.
Good night.